Hello all, welcome to the Legend of Gaming podcast. I'm Matt.
And you got Cliff?
And today we're going to be talking about MOBAs and MMOs. But first, before we split up our episode, let's get into the Cliff Notes from the last episode. Cliff?
So we have some good Cliff Notes here. We're going to cover one big question that was kind of left on the table. Diddy Kong, did it have Mario characters in the racing? I looked, and there is no Mario to be found.
But
it's actually animals from the jungle. So it's different characters from Diddy Kong's world. So it truly was its own standalone game. Really cool.
there was one character from another franchise that was in it.
What was that?
Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie? I didn't know that.
Banjo-Kazooie was in the game as a character. And I remember because I played Banjo specifically.
Oh, really?
But
Nice.
yes, there's Diddy Kong, Animals from the Universe, all the Kong characters, and Banjo.
Spot on. I like it. Now, in our last episode, we definitely talked about our racing games. We talked about, getting into the fun stuff all the way to being professional and things that were kind of like in between where you had some grace periods. It wasn't too punishing. Two notes that I wanted to bring up just how impactful video games are. One is the 30th anniversary for that BMW I mentioned at the very beginning. BMW themselves actually went out and made the car, exact replica from the game. And they actually had people able to go on out, fly out and see it. They even had the main character in the game that was like your rival. He was actually present taking shots and everything. So really cool. It's amazing how they can tie in certain things like that. Another one that I really want to mention is Forza 5. There was a Guinness World Record for a car called the Rimac Rivera. And this car is the fastest car to go in reverse. You want to guess how fast it was going?
Okay. In reverse.
Just picture it's going fast.
I don't want to overshoot it either and look like an idiot.
I wanted to show you this video. 115. It's a low.
Oh, okay.
It's a low.
155.
171 miles per hour in reverse. I honestly, like, looking at the video, I couldn't comprehend it. I was like, this has to be a lie. It is true. So this car, since it did what it did, they actually put it into the game, and you can drag race with this thing. And as you're drag racing, you're watching it go in reverse, beating all these other cars.
I was actually just going to ask, you can drag race it in reverse specifically?
Yes, just for that car. Absolutely amazing. So, there is such a strong impact on the games that we play today.
I love that. Yeah. Well, today we're going to talk about two genres that have a huge following. They function very differently, but I think the recipes that make up each genre are super special because it's really based on the community that plays the game to make the game special. And let's start with MOBAs. First, do you know what MOBA stands for?
Let's have you tell us, because I remember I know MMO, but I don't know MOBAs.
I actually didn't know what MOBA stood for, even though I've played them forever. And it's a multiplayer online battle arena, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Whenever you think about a battle royale, it has a circle that gets smaller. Whenever you think about a MOBA, it's really made up of a trio. And the trio is a lane, tower, minion meta.
Right.
I think we've all played a MOBA of some sort.
Yes.
Right? And that is definitely the combo. Now, shout out before we get into the major hitters. Aeon of Strife is the first ever credited MOBA. It was a custom map from StarCraft, funny enough. So it was a custom map in an RTS, which actually you will see is a recipe for both of these genres to jumpstart.
Okay.
But it wasn't the first game to have these elements, but it was the first game to combine all three.
Gotcha.
So I want to be very clear, the right guys out there, they're like, well, actually, there's another game with towers. Absolutely. Absolutely. But Aeon of Strife was the first game to put those elements together. Warcraft 3 and Dota actually took that formula
Yeah.
and popularized the genre off of that. So, gotta give
like
the shout out to Aeon of Strife.
Absolutely.
You know, it was the progenitor. But when we talk about current day and when we talk about games that we love or that we've experienced, I think there's a handful of MOBAs that really stick out.
Yeah, for sure.
Cliff, what are some of yours?
I would say the two that really stick with me, one was actually a mobile game. It's called Vainglory. It came out on the phone, and this was a very it started off as a 1 lane, but they actually over time they upgraded and made it where it was a 3 lane. And the appeal to it was, one, like I didn't have to dive into my computer to get to it. I had very ease of access. Anytime I wanted to play, I could play. The matches only took within, I would say, like 15 minutes to maybe 20, so it didn't feel like the full length of it. So you were getting like a smaller dose of what you normally would get for that type of MOBA, and that's where the appeal came to me. I love the characters. There's one that's called Jewel, and she's a character that sits on this giant mecha, and she can literally like jump across the map on different spots. In her last like ultimate, she shoots a cannon in a certain like pathway. If you're in that pathway, you get obliterated. So you can really like set it up where it's like, oh, like everyone's running this way, but you cut them off, or you make it where, oh, they can't retreat. So it was a really fun character to play when you just jump out of nowhere, out of a bush, and then you're just like, wah, just shooting crazy laser. So that was a really fun one. The second one was Paragon. Now, Paragon...
Hold on. I don't want you to just jump back. I got questions.
You got questions? Talk to me.
So, the setup for Vainglory.
Yeah.
Is this a... You said it went from 1 lane to 3 lanes.
Yes.
Was this a 1v1 the whole time? As it progressed and went to 3 lanes, was it 3v3? Was it you and AI versus each other?
It was actually 3v3.
Okay.
It started off as 3v3, and then it went to 5v5 once they had the 3 lanes.
Did they have different types of characters? So you're talking about this character that can sit on a map, jumps across the map, Jewel. Love the name, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Were there like bruiser types, tanks, anti-tanks, glass cannons?
Potentially there were assassins. There were potentially junglers as well. And you did have like your tanks. You didn't really have necessarily like your specific healers. There were like certain ways that you could heal yourself by like retreating potentially and getting back to the base, because the map wasn't as big as it may have seemed. It was really like a medium to small map. So it wasn't like too crazy. So you really didn't have like a specific healer or anything of that sort. So really you had to play to a certain like extent. But it was a really fun game to play. I think the characters that they had, another one was called Taka, and he was an assassin. He looked like a fox.
Taka.
Yeah, there we go.
Espinaca.
He was going crazy.
I like this guy.
He does like this really cool dash towards you. He does this like mark where you get marked, and then like he has a multiplier that stays on you if he sticks to you. So the moment he starts hunting you, you gotta back up.
I'm having PTSD back to Black Panther. I'm having PTSD back to Black Panther and Marvel Rivals.
I know season 2 just came out, people. So we're in a funny spot right now.
No, but like, look, this is what I love. You know, we can even talk about older MOBAs that are still like using aspects of character combat.
Yeah.
That, you know, it allows for those layers of skill. If you can stack it, you're going to really be up in that damage. You said, what does it give you? Triple damage?
I think it goes up to, it's a little bit hard to remember, but I think it goes up to either 3 or 5. So you can really just start stacking it up. And there's just, I mean, they have such a wonderful layer of like characters. I really appreciated the level of like detail they put into the characters, because as you go through playing different MOBAs, it's really the characters that stand out to you. You know, you have the map never changes, but the characters and how you play them does. It's funny, just like some of them come back to me. There's another one that's called like Rain, almost like a reindeer, and it's this old grumpy guy. He has like crystals on his staff. He walks so slow, but what he does is he'll slam onto the ground. He'll set like crystals at a distance, and they'll kind of just implode with a certain timer. So he can actually like forcibly put like landmines within a distance. So you closing in on him isn't a good idea. You need to get him at a distance. There's so many different characters. I really do appreciate all the different type of characters they had. And I think that's what really made the game. There's another one like right here. His name's Cruel. You can see he has this giant sword in his chest. He's like a necromancer. And he'll actually go around just kind of swiping away at you. And what you'll do is his ultimate, he'll actually take out the sword and he'll lunge it at you. And it'll just go spinning. It'll take everyone that it can see in its path. So they had like some really cool characters. I definitely loved the lineup of what they did. And they played into it well for upgrading the game, where it was now a 5v5. And I think looking at how they were like, okay, like this is popular enough where this should receive an upgrade. This should have, you know, a full jungle system. This should have like actually like monsters in the jungle that you're going for. That was really cool to see how something of just a mobile game kind of grew.
I really like that. And there's two major things that you get from that. So for the character design part, absolutely. I think there's two catches with character design that MOBAs and MMOs have to be able to capture.
Yeah.
The first thing is a design that makes you want to play the character.
Right.
So it's literally just something that is eye-catching. That's like, I want to play this guy. For example, the skeleton with the huge sword through his chest. What was his name? Cruel.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You got a skeleton, got a big sword through his chest. That is interesting enough. I like that. I'm into horror movies. Let me pick this guy.
Yeah.
Now, second part of character design, it has to feel good to play.
Right.
And when you're playing this guy and you have one moveset, and then once you use your ultimate, you pull out this gigantic sword that's in your chest and lunge with it, throw it, and it flies through maybe brush,
Yes.
maybe down a lane.
Yes, it definitely can.
And we'll really specify, you know, how these games function, but those are major components that make it fun.
Yeah.
Because, you know, maybe you're getting outplayed, you're in a lane, you're getting a gank from a jungler that's coming, you know, he's invisible in the brush and he's coming out. It's nice to be able to...
You throw that, take out anything in the brush. That's it. And the crazy part about it too is whoever it lands on, it'll actually be stuck in them, just like how it is for him. And they'll be stunned if they're still alive.
See, that's
so
just cool.
It's, you know, like you think about mobile games, and I know that there's so much depth that's capable, and I know there's a lot of limitations, especially in the time that this came out. This came out in, if I'm not mistaken, around 2014. So,
but it did the right things, Cliff. It came out in 2014, but the second part is character designs where you capture people and they play.
Yeah.
What keeps people is change.
Yeah.
Is
absolutely.
Evolution of the game. And you're telling me it went from 1 lane to 3 lanes, then to 5. Like, you know, these things are what keep people playing. Also, games die.
They do.
Unfortunately, like, as you get older, you know, games cannot just indefinitely go on forever. It could be a successor. It could be the game just fell out. Maybe there's no more updates. But, like, how many years did you play this?
I want to say confidently at least, I want to say like 4 years.
That's all.
At least.
You played that at high school.
There.
You played that at high school graduation.
Yeah. Like, I put some time into this.
You played that
it was
at
just a
bachelor's
really
degree.
fun game. Yeah. Oh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
4 years, that's a good amount of time.
So, very solid game. And I think the characters that they just kept rolling out, they all had, like, potential. I think the last one I'll tell you about is this one over here, Alpha. Alpha was a assassin that was kind of running around with a giant sword. Her ultimate was like a self-sacrifice, so she would potentially explode like a nuke. So you'd want to surprise someone around the corner. If they're getting you low health, you can hit your ult, you'll explode, and you'll still be alive. So she was like a really cool character. I definitely, from everyone that I've played almost 80% of the characters. Every single one was very enjoyable.
Very Voldo-esque.
Voldo?
I'll show you. I'll
Okay.
show you. Trust me. Because when you see it, you'll know. Voldo's from Soul Calibur. That lady's design's crazy, but that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I can definitely talk on these characters a lot. I think. All right, last one.
Give me one more, because my thing is, I think that we may have to, in season 2, when we do elements, have an episode just about character design.
We will.
And we can just pick up a bunch of characters, because I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing the art right now and it's pretty fabulous.
Yeah, but definitely, guys, go check this out.
I could see there being depth to each of these characters.
For sure.
What's the next one?
Probably the last one that I mained was Sky. She has a mecha suit around her, almost like the movie, I think it's called Today After Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. Kind of like a mecha suit around you. And she can actually glide around the map a little bit. So she's very high mobility. And she's all about like sniping in place. So she can kind of like hit like certain shots. She can switch on like these gunner shots too. So she can like do really good burst damage. And then her ultimate, she whips out like multiple guns and she just like becomes like an AC-130 and just starts destroying things. So she has really clean movement. She has like a clean escape too, where you'll see her kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like
strafe.
Left. Yeah, strafe.
Really good. I saw that move. I saw those shoulders. Those are strafing shoulders.
That's spot on. So she has some really good strafes, and I think she was like probably the last character that I was like, man, I'm putting in a lot of work in. And they had skins too, like, you know, for a mobile game during that time to have like different skins, these new characters rolling out. It was really impressive to me.
I love that. And look, you were just gonna skip past that, go to Paragon. I wanted to hear the meat. I know. So Vainglory, you definitely have my interest.
Yeah.
You definitely have my interest. Great character design. You know, a lot of playability, a lot of uniqueness to the abilities. Throwing the sword into someone else too, and it's sticking. And I think those are just things that keep people on a character wanting to perfect it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's Paragon? I want to hear about this.
Paragon it has the same concept, but this was a little bit more developed, of course. This was on console, and potentially you have the same type of 3-lane pillar setup. You spend certain points at the beginning of the match to get like a few different pieces of upgrades and stuff like that. It is your general like MOBA. Now the reason that this was a lot of fun is because it kind of made it into a shooter. So instead of it being just like, for example, overview or looking at it and it's almost like 2-dimensional, this was very 3D. So it felt like you had to get your shots down. So it gave it an extra level of certain skill to try to just get certain hits in.
And I want to pause there, so like to give a visual to people that may struggle with visuals. If you've played League of Legends or Dota, that's an overview. That's where you're over the top, drag a camera around, and you move a character with clicks. Mm-hmm. If you've played Smite, that is kind of close to like where it's almost like a first-person shooter because it's down over the shoulder.
Right.
But it feels a little 2-dimensional because there's a lack of depth.
Right. Now, that's spot on. I would say take Smite and give it a very polished version of itself. That is probably Paragon. That's how I would probably sum it up. And the appeal behind it was if you liked first-person shooters, this gave you that entryway into it. And it was a very gorgeous game. I think one of my favorite characters his name was Gideon. And potentially what he could do is he could like open portals into space and he'll just pull meteorites and hit people with them.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. So he was definitely like my favorite character. I want to say when it comes down to...
Did Paragon function down lanes also? Was it 2 lanes, 3 lanes? What was it like?
It was 3 lanes. Their jungle was potentially like elevated in certain ways. So it dips down in certain areas. It goes up in different areas. So it was a really like fun game. It kind of gave it a little bit more of a 3-dimensional feel to MOBAs. And I think that's where I found the appeal of it a lot.
So we keep mentioning jungles and like brush. Give me a little lowdown. What's the jungle?
That's true. We're not breaking down the concepts of it. So normally when you're playing MOBAs, for anyone that's never played one before, you have your 3 lanes. So there's normally one right in the middle. There's normally one that's to the left, to the right. And you would have these jungles in between. Now, if you're playing with like 5 characters, normally you would have one jungler, and what they would do is they would go into the jungle and they would go there to level up.
I was always a jungler. I was always a jungler. Yeah,
You were,
because
really.
if you have a good jungler, they're gonna have their timings down. They're gonna know exactly how long it takes to get to their mobs in the jungle.
Right.
To get to their little ads, and then guess what? I'm gonna gank some lane, and I'm gonna mess up somebody's day.
As you
Maybe
should.
my teammate's day if I ruin the gank. Someone's day is getting ruined.
Someone's catching it. But yes, so your jungler is almost somewhat of your free roam, and they're normally the ones to initiate proper moves, proper like pushes, because they can move freely in between the middle lane, left lane, right lane, anything of that sort. And then you have like your different characters, of course, like assassins. You have your snipers. So that's where you kind of see the concept of it. In the 3 lanes, there's normally like a tower or pillar, depending on which type of game you're playing. And your idea or goal, of course, is to push back the pillars all the way to their home base. Now, normally, most games have it where you just have to do one. I don't think have you seen anyone that's like where you have to do multiple in order to get the win? I haven't.
No, because like even League has multiple towers. When you get in towers, there's nodes in front of that big core.
Exactly.
But like no, it's one major core at the end of, I feel always.
Yeah. So as long as you push one of the towers and you get there, you get your win.
Exactly.
Now, once you find a weak link, you're tearing up someone on the left lane. They can't hold it. Then you start forcing that side. You start seeing everyone leaving their lane sometimes because it's like, okay, my lane's protected. I can leave this for a little bit. I can help you push this side. So it's really a good balance of where should we put our offense? Where should we put our defense? And that's where MOBAs really shine.
Yeah, and I mean, also every single game is going to play different.
Right.
You may give up a death really early at the beginning, and they're able to get one item up, and guess what? They're a little buffed the first 10 minutes of that match, where you're playing at a disadvantage. You have to play under the tower. You have to wait for that jungler. Again, that's where that jungler comes in. They can come and they can give you assistance when you're down. But also, like I said at the beginning, I could come to gank your lane, do it really terribly, give up a kill, and now they're up 2 kills. They have 2 items, right? And you're kind of giving up that lane. And that's where you really have to collaborate in many MOBAs, especially if it's 3 people or 5 people.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to communicate, because there are gives and takes. And sometimes if I'm down 2-3 kills, you're not getting that lane back. What you have to do is start preparing mid-game, late game. All right, you know what? In 10 to 15 minutes, I'll have enough money to have a power spike. And then we can maybe push down mid. So let me stay down here. Let me farm under my tower. Let me not die anymore. But also, anyone who has an advantage jungler, go help them. Go help them push that lane. Because actually, I would say it's really never beneficial to gank a losing lane as a jungler.
You said not beneficial?
No, I mean it's really hard. If you're really down, truly, if you're down 2 kills, us getting that 1 kill is not going to put you even.
True.
Right? That 1 kill is going to put you at best 1-0, or if it's a duo lane where you have 2 people. Okay, cool, you're 2-2. That's not going to put you at an advantage, because you still got to go back, get your item, and then come back to the lane. They're already going to be back knocking down your tower. So it's really one of those moments where I call it turtling. You really need to know how to use your resources to your advantage. Stay under the tower, stay near that jungler, stay where you feel safe and you can stay alive.
Yeah.
And maybe you can get that lucky kill off of them, because people get greedy. That's the beauty of people. People get greedy. But what's not going to really benefit is if we're not pushing those other lanes, right? So it's just kind of like pros and cons. I don't think that it's a terrible idea. I would say it's probably more beneficial, though, for you to turtle up, and you send your jungler to a lane like top or mid, where you can have a little bit more leeway into maybe their towers, getting closer to that core, pushing into their base.
Right. And one thing we didn't mention is actually the minions. So at each tower, there is a set of minions on both sides, and your goal is to help push your minions and kill off the other minions. This will, one, give you the ability to level up, and two, the minions are going to help you destroy the tower. So you being faced off with one other person on the opposite side, if they're killing off your minions quicker, then you have a problem, right? All of a sudden you have to fight the minions and that person. It's too much. Your tower is going to defend you as much as possible, because most pet towers have it where they're firing as well. But the towers, when you have minions directly on it, it's going to focus the minions first. That's your opportunity to take out the towers. So it's really a, how can I play this? How can I make this work when it comes to MOBAs?
Yeah, and minions are not just always like mindless little goblins either. You know, it just depends on the game. When you're playing Smite, they're like little soldiers. They're actually little warriors.
Right.
If you're playing League, they are little minions in colored garb of your team. So minions are really just that resource for getting money.
Exactly.
I do have a question. Vainglory, Paragon, when you killed minions, would it just give you money from killing them, or did you need to last hit them?
So you did have to last hit them, and to kind of give you an idea, like for example, I have some Gideon footage for him. You do have to get that last hit, and you'll get these orbs that will kind of float over to you, and you'll absorb them. Then you can use that to buy in cards. You're actually purchasing cards, so you're not spending the money directly on like power pieces, but it's potentially like physical, like playing cards that you're actually spending your power on.
Okay, so I get it. So in that game, you're buying cards. Those cards give you powers, power-ups, buffs, whatever it may be.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I like that. I think that would be an easier system than, you know, games like League, where you have 170 characters, and every time there's an update, you know, there's new weapons, there's new items added in the game, there's new armor, there's new crit pieces, there's new build pieces, and that's really, I love it. I love the depth that it adds, but I really like the simplicity of like, hey, you upgrade these cards, it makes your powers a little bit stronger. This is how you level to get to their base. So I can appreciate that. I can say from looking at the footage, I really see what you mean by it's like Smite Plus. Like it's like the graphics remind me of almost like Gears of War when you play certain characters.
Okay.
But then like Destiny when you play other characters. So it's really interesting that the type of character you're picking, whether it's a tank, a bruiser, an assassin, an elementalist, a caster, whatever, it definitely has a different look on the screen.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I like that. I like that variety.
Yeah, I've always, anytime I've played, just to kind of describe you guys like how it looks, it almost looks like a ancient temple that's kind of overgrown with like a lot of moss, foliage, and each side kind of has like a bluish and orange glow to it of the towers having like different lines and streaks of like neon colors, and you also have like waterfalls. It's also misty, kind of looks like you're way up in the mountains. So it really gives me a beautiful like visual.
In Paragon, is that the only map?
They came out with other maps later on into the game, and I will say this is a game that they did wind up shutting down after some time. They went different directions with it, and I think some people enjoyed it, some people didn't, but I definitely loved the like origin, the original of like how people used to play this game at the very beginning. It was definitely a really fun game, and I think if they kept this core to it, I probably would still be playing it.
Hey, I mean, so, I'll really be candid, like looking at it, it looks pretty fun. Yeah, and this looks like a game I could put some couple hours into.
Oh, for sure.
All right, well, you know exactly what I'm about to bring up. I'm about to bring up the Big Daddy. The Big Daddy of MOBAs.
Talk to me.
I will say in my life, Riot Games definitely coined the term MOBA. I had never really heard that before I had played League of Legends.
Okay.
And that's the one that I'm going to dedicate the time to. I will say League of Legends and Dota 2 are very similar. I think League has a little bit easier of a learning curve. I think playing the game is easier. I think learning all of the champions is more difficult because there's hundreds.
Yeah, there's
almost hundreds. There's 170. That's almost hundreds.
It feels like hundreds. When you look at the list, it feels like
it feels like hundreds. Now, what I will say, League, whenever you were talking about Vainglory, I really can appreciate the character art. I can appreciate the design. There was one character named Thresh that the character design was so cool. My friends were all playing the game. Like, let me just get in and I'll play it. And what's funny is he was a support character. So to give you a setup, League is 5 lanes. There's top, mid, and bottom. Bottom, you send an ADC, which is attack damage carry, and a support. And the support obviously supports that ADC. Mid is usually someone who is a caster. They're a little bit more weak. They're more of a glass cannon, but they do tons of damage. And then top, usually a bruiser, tank, something like that. And obviously you have a jungler. And what's cool about League is the mid to top lane and the mid to bottom lane was separated by not only 2 jungles, but also a huge river in the middle. So it really added a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
Every single game, there was 10 different routes people could go. Now on top of that, there's brush. And brush is grass patches that when you run in, you do not show up on the minimap.
Right.
I love in League, whenever the game would start, your whole team, if they were really coordinated, would run in a straight line, run all the way past that river into the enemy side and hide in a brush. And you'd wait, and you'd wait, and you'd wait to ruin someone's day. And it's just crazy because it feels good every time you do it.
Yeah.
Every time you catch somebody. And then layers you add to it with 170 characters, there's going to be interesting character design, like, Mr. Cruel. I was really attracted to a character named Blitzcrank. Not physically attracted, he's a robot. But I saw the character design, and he's a robot. He can kind of speed up. You can punch people, but the funniest thing is his regular Q ability shoots out his hand 10-15 feet, grabs the enemy and pulls him in.
Oh, he's pulling like a scorpion.
100%.
Oh, wow.
But what's so just crazy about it is, what are we talking about? We're talking about towers.
Yeah.
Tower defense, right? Your tower attacks people.
Yeah.
We would turtle up, get underneath the tower. You have your minions underneath your tower. They're pushing up. You just grab their ADC and pull them under the tower, punch him, gets hit once or twice by the tower, boom, easy kill.
Wow, I can see it.
Once you start getting good at that, you realize this is like really simple stuff. This is like child's play.
Yeah.
Then you start getting into characters like Rengar, who is a tiger that every time you go into brush, you can leap out. So people really perfected dancing in and out of the brush so they could leap.
You're almost invisible the whole time.
It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. And I think League really took a lot of the elements that you were talking about in these other games, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have character design from a visual perspective. They look cute. They look cool. They look clunky. They look fun. Gangplank, this pirate. I love pirates.
Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta play Gangplank. That's the dipping the toes in the pool.
Yeah.
Then you get in and, maybe you have to collaborate with someone. I always played support, so I always had to play with another player, in bot lane. It's fun to watch people mess up and try to help them. Right. It's fun to take advantage of those mess ups from the other team when it's not your team and you're like, oh, thank God. I think those are like the elements that keep you coming back day in, day out, whether you're winning or losing. I think falling in love with characters is what makes you just devote hundreds of hours.
Right. No, it definitely does.
What is your favorite role to play in these games before I dive into League a little more?
I thought it used to be like jungling, but it's normally being like mid lane. Like the character I was mentioning earlier, like Gideon, he's perfect for mid lane because he's dropping just rocks on people. So if you try to gank him, if you try to show up and like catch him off guard, he can definitely surprise you. I can drop rocks right behind you.
Rocks.
And you don't know where to go. Like, he just has a really good way of like self-countering ganks, which is really fun.
I love that. So there's a character in League that you'd like, and he plays
I've seen
mid.
him before.
Heimerdinger, aka the Donger. And my goodness, such a goofy character. He's a little scientist, and you can set down 2 to 3 little turrets. Very Torbjorn-esque. But man, ganking him, if you missed him and you didn't kill him right off the bat, it was always terrible because you knew you're getting cooked by the Donger. And it just makes me think of that.
Nice.
I think that's one area that League is so strong on top of updates. They just have such a depth for characters.
Yeah.
They have such a depth for characters. When we were talking earlier, talking about character design and updating the game, I do want to say League has put so much effort to keep the game fresh. When I played, they did a UI update where they didn't change the lanes. They didn't physically change anything, but they updated the graphics, the particle graphics, the water, and it was phenomenal.
That's awesome. That's the type of update that should always happen.
Should,
Yeah.
but doesn't.
Right.
Now, where they went a step further, people were getting to a point where the gameplay was getting stale. I played bot for years. You go down bot, there's this bush on bottom lane. You know they're either in that bush or they're in the river. And then guess what? You buy a ward. A ward is a little totem that you can set down, and it gives you vision on the minimap. What's crazy is they added a little divot, a little hole with more bush 10 years into the game's existence. That's like almost unheard of. And it does take courage. I can give Riot all the shit, and yeah, I'm going to say that, because they have a lot of griefers, and they have a lot of bad people in the community. That community is, aside from the characters are amazing, the game gets so much TLC, there's so much depth to skins, lore at this point. To be candid, you talk about playing mobile games. League, you can play it on almost anything with an internet connection. You don't need crazy good graphics.
Yeah.
Or a graphics card. You need a reasonable amount of RAM. But I just think that when you look at bang for your buck, it is a free-to-play game.
Yeah.
You do get points. You can unlock characters. But really, there's a lot of replayability.
There is.
From any angle that you look at it. I play bot and I get sick of it and I'm sick of losing. Guess what? I can go play mid, like you said, and I can have a bigger impact. I can go jungle and maybe I can prevent people from ruining my bot lane's day.
Right.
That's another layer. Then there's things called ARAMs, all random, all mid. So it takes away the other lanes. Everyone's in one lane. It just gives you random characters and you just kill each other. That's mindless. You just get in Discord, you chat with friends, and you blow each other up. And guess what? If you get your favorite character, hell yeah. And if you don't, okay.
Yeah, I'll try something new.
No, we were talking about character design, and you were going in.
I was.
The Vainglory ones.
I know they stick with me.
I got to give a shout out. I was started to talk about Thresh, I believe.
Yeah,
and I got sidetracked. So Thresh was that upgrade to Blitzcrank.
Okay.
So we talked about Blitzcrank. Boom. Okay, I got this robot. I can grab people and I can punch them under the tower. Boom. People get real smart to that. Thresh was the coolest character because he was a skeleton, green glowing ethereal light, looked sick. He had another character in the game's wife inside of his lantern. That's just badass.
That is.
But the actual kit he had added so much utility to bottom lane. So in the game you have 4 moves. You have your 4 abilities. You have 3 main abilities and then you have an ultimate.
Okay.
His regular Q was a hook that you could throw out 10 meters or so, and it would grab the enemy and would not pull them in. It would pull you to them. It would pull you across
like
the map to them. It was longer than Blitzcrank's, but it pulled you to them. His second move, he'd throw his lantern. He'd throw his lantern out.
With the wife?
With the wife in it. She's like, grab me. The lantern, not the wife. She'd say that. And your teammates could grab the lantern and fly to you. Okay, so follow along. Q, You can fly to enemies.
Okay.
Good distance. Your lantern, your W, you throw, and that pulls your team to you. Now your E was a move called Flay. And Flay would swing your hook in whatever direction you chose. Now, it would push enemies in that direction, right? So if you aimed it towards you, it would pull enemies towards you.
Okay.
If you aimed it away from you, it'd knock them away.
This is, so far I'm just picturing his kit. And this is really giving me like a sense of I can really reposition people into advantage and disadvantages.
I can play really stupid. Oh no, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Throw my lantern into a bush crazy far back because guess who's there? My jungler hiding in a bush they can't see. If I hit that hook, he doesn't grab the lantern until I hit that hook because it lands and gives you a second to pull it. I land that hook, guess who's grabbing that lantern? Buddy Buster Boy back there in the bush. I'm flying, he's flying.
Yeah.
You hear a song in the background, Lips of an Angel. And all of a sudden,
slow-mo too.
Guess what? You fly up on this guy. Let's say he's got good reflexes.
Okay. There's
a thing called flash, isn't there? It takes you and teleports you. Blink, it's called a blink. It could be called a flash. In League, it's called flash. You blink away. So I cue this guy. I hit him with my hook. I threw my lantern back. We fly to him. He's like, I'm blinking away. He blinks away. Guess what I still got? My flay. I just pull him right back. Thresh is CC City. You are getting crowd control.
Yeah.
If I land my hook on you, I'm ruining your day. And your ultimate is it's a box. It's just a soul box around you that if they walk through it slows them down. So literally, your goal is to communicate, get your team there, set up a little trap, outplay them. And my God, it is so satisfying every single time you do it.
That's nice.
Every single time you do it.
You're not only like repositioning, but you are creating opportunities while you're doing that.
That he is a character that you can change bottom lane because on top of it, there's other aspects too. So, two things that make you better in this aspect in League. You can buy items, right? When you spawn, you can buy items that allow you to share your gold with your ADC.
Okay.
So guess what? They really suck at last hitting, which is killing a minion, the last of its health, to receive gold. So earlier when I asked Cliff if last hitting was a thing in those games, as those minions' health go down, you or your ADC have to hit that minion to kill it. It cannot be killed by another minion to receive gold from it. Now, in League, there is also another minion in your little line of 6 or 7 minions that keep regenerating the whole time, called a cannon minion. And that cannon minion gives you even more gold.
Right.
Please don't miss the cannon minion. That will crush your team's hopes and dreams. It's just, at that point, we're losing to, NPCs. We're not getting the money.
You're losing the extra cash.
And as Thresh, I think what made it cool was there's 2 layers to it. You could get this item. You could help that bozo that can't last hit. You can make money. You can pass it to him. But every third hit from Thresh did a critical.
Okay.
So guess what I'd do? Last hit a minion. Boom. Got a little extra gold. Last hit a minion. Got a little extra gold. Now I know my next hit's a crit. I'm not whacking a minion. I'm going to smack the other player in the lane.
And it's going to be a surprise.
Not even a surprise. It's just going to crit. Even if he's trying to do that, he's trying to last hit too.
Yeah.
I just got 2 minions of gold for my teammate, and now I'm going to poke him and annoy him because that's going to stress him out a little bit. He's starting to take free damage, take free crits. Also, he knows I have all this CC, so it's kind of like a mind game.
Yeah.
And you talk about chess. I think League is the chess of MOBAs.
Okay. I can see that.
You can beat a character because I counter him. I can beat a character because I'm more aggressive. I can beat a character because I have better communication. There's literally so many areas where you can win. And there's also a lot of areas where you can win for 40 minutes and then you lose one team fight, you lose a game.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a little bit of heartbreak that comes with it too. I am thankful for characters like Thresh, for characters like Blitzcrank that make those support roles fun.
Yeah.
But also I think just having characters across the board from little dweeby nerdy characters like Heimerdinger to Aatrox to I'll be honest, like, one of my favorites was Graves. And he's just like a dude in a trench coat with a shotgun. But he was so easy to play. Again, it wasn't the design, the visual.
Yeah.
But I saw him in game shooting people with a shotgun.
You're like, oh, this is what?
Let me give this a try. Then after I got used to how he played, I really kind of like how he looked. So it's like, it went both ways. You know, sometimes it's the visual. You're like, let me try it. I've played some trash characters, 170 champions.
Right.
Dude, there's some in there that you're not getting. You know what? You're not getting me to play Garen. You're not getting me to play Garen.
What I will say on all the characters, it does make it where it's harder to learn everyone's movesets. There's characters you might have not, like, going into this, like, let's say for the first time, there's so many characters. You're not going to know all their skill sets, every like move that they can make, what their crits are, what type of damage they do, if it's true damage, if it's this, if it's that, what their ultimates do. So I think it really throws in a like high skill when it comes down to it, and it also throws in just so many different ways things can go. And I know that for the most part, when you start playing these, they try to match make you with people that are newer to the game. So you'll still have that element of surprise. You won't get completely dominated or anything of that sort. But I think for you to have so many different options, I think it is definitely, I like how you compared it to chess.
Yeah, and again, options can be too many. Like, to your point, like, it really can be like a high mountain to climb.
Yeah.
But it is free to play. So, like, I know, and I'll come back that it is free to play. So, you know, I think that not having to pay to be bad takes away the frustration of having to basically get stomped a little bit. But to your point, the AI is really forgiving. There's levels. You can really learn there. ARAMs give you the ability to figure out how humans play characters without the elements of the jungler, without the lanes, without having to know, have game awareness, essentially. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. That's even good. Though to all my friends who play the game in real life, I literally dog on them 24/7. And I think it's because that's a game that I am beyond playing at this point. Mm-hmm. I don't have the skill to play at the level I want to play.
Yeah.
So, like, I invest that in other places, you know, and I'll get to that whenever we talk about WoW. But League really holds a special place in my heart because I think it does everything well.
Yeah.
I think it does the actual in the arena, how you interact. You have Baron and you have Dragon. Those are two NPCs that are not easy to kill in the game, that give you money and they give you a buff. And both of those things can change how the game plays. Also, we talk about jungling, right? And we're talking about these junglers coming and helping the lanes. The reason they're able to help the lanes is because they have buffs. They have red buff and they have blue buff. Right. And these buffs do different things, like speed up your attack cooldowns, or your attack speed, or your cooldowns of your spells, or your mana. And I think that those elements, on top of character design, on top of longevity, where they update the game, they update the UI, they update all those things, I think that's what's going to keep League relevant in 5 years. Character design has been one of the aspects when I've fallen out, maybe for that year or two, that I come back when I see a really cool character getting introduced. Now, You were telling me about this dude dropping meteors.
Yeah, Gideon.
Using gravity. It reminded me of Swain. Now, Swain is a mid character. He does not use gravity. But Swain, like, can turn into birds and crows, and he's such an obnoxious character, and he's kind of like a genius, like that, like, protagonist is like, or that antagonist is like, I'm better than you.
Yeah, he kind of looks like him just a little bit. They kind of have the same type of style.
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do. Now, anyone who's played League knows there's a handful of characters that are like, boom, anybody could pick it up and play. Mm-hmm. That's a Volley Bear. And the reason Volley Bear was an easy one, his design was you hit one button.
Okay.
You hit Q, which makes you run really fast, and you're a bear, and you would throw them over your head. You run, and you throw them over your head. Your second ability would make you punch harder, just faster. And then once you got them past a certain amount of health, you could bite them, and that bite would basically finish them off. And he was such an easy character.
That's a clean finisher.
You would think if you saw a polar bear with lightning, you'd be like, man, that's probably a terror. That character is probably terrorizing people. No. That character, Teemo, was the most terrifying character to run into in the game.
Really?
Teemo could turn invisible.
Looks innocent.
Teemo could hide in bushes. Teemo could turn invisible standing still. And Teemo's ultimate was not an ability that you would use once. Teemo's ultimate was leaving poisonous mushrooms around the map invisible. So as the game would go on, you'd be running and it'd be like, poof, poison, poof, poison, poof, and then he'd invisible and poof, 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 shoot you with poison darts. And my God, that cute little monster right there, the Swift Scout himself.
Sounds like a nuisance from a distance.
Again, it comes back to why League has so many layers. It's that MOBA onion. It's got tons of characters. It's got character designs that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
It's got character designs that you wouldn't expect. I think one thing I really like about League is if there's a character that does something, there's a character that does the polar opposite. There's a character named Rek'Sai he's like a alien type of thing, and he can build a portal across the entire map. So if he spawns, he can make a little tunnel all the way across the map to get to you, to gank your lane, to help you, to save you.
Okay.
Cool, right?
Wow.
Super cool. Now, I'm a support character. That pisses me off. I'm mad if I'm playing and this little alien pops up out of the ground and can basically just destroy us. A little while later, they release a character named Tom Kinch. Tom Kinch is a frog that I can eat my teammates, and I can travel across the map. So it's kind of like the antithesis, right? Yeah. If I know this guy's coming, maybe we just tricked him. Now he's down in bottom lane and we gank mid. But this is where it adds extra layers. If I've played against a character that plays Rek'Sai, maybe this is what I'm going to go with.
And by the way, to kind of give a description, imagine the skills of Jeff the Shark from Rivals, and then you take Jabba the Hutt and you paint him green. That's probably this.
and don't forget, you give him like a Scottish,
little Scottish hat,
Tribbley hat
on the top.
But this is the 170 characters, the multiple different modes, different rewards. I think also time investment. Once you've already invested time to get good, you don't want to just put that game down. So I really think when you look at MOBAs, they've come a really long way.
Yeah,
they've come a really long way. But also, I think the ones that are standing at the top now have a lot of positives. I think the Smites, the Vainglories, the Paragons, the League of Legends, the Dotas, I think they all have their own place. Even now, Valorant's emerging, and that's one of these, MOBAs that I don't play, but it's really like a shooter. It's like
that's
Overwatch.
True.
So, that's something that I will introduce myself to so I can speak on it, more confidently. But really, it just speaks to, you've got options.
Yeah. And to kind of tear into Valorant, I've definitely played, I want to say just a decent amount. I definitely have really close friends that play it a lot more than me. But what I can tell you is kind of again tying into a game where you have powers, you have the abilities, but you also have I don't want to say generic, but very a limited amount of guns that everyone can kind of use. So then you have this skill set of getting really good with certain guns and also using your powers and abilities to work with that. So I think that's where the fun of almost having a shooter and also having the ability of a MOBA tied in together. It should be roughly around, I believe, 12 rounds, and you're potentially playing search and destroy, as if you're playing Call of Duty. And the goal, of course, is to destroy the bomb, destroy the site, You can choose what site you want to go to, and there's a few different type of roles that you could be playing. You could be playing control, where you're making sure people can't get line of sight on your team. You could be playing, I believe, like their DPS. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, a Vanguard as well. I'll double check the names on it. I haven't played it too much, but it's definitely a very popular game. It's really good. I will say it's you have to learn a little bit on the sighting, because the moment you shoot about 3 bullets, the recoil is very real in that game. So if you notice, if you ever watch like pro gamers, they have it where they shoot off one shot. It is a one-shot kill type of game. So people drop really quickly, especially if you have your accuracy down. But normally, anytime you see someone firing off, you don't see them firing off a immense amount of like shots, because the recoil is just everywhere.
It's just gnarly. It's like Dumb and Dumber when he shoots all around.
Yeah, and it's just like, you'll see it. And like, I've even gone, because I was trying for a little bit to try to get really good at it, and I was going to, they have like these training grounds that you can go to and test out guns and stuff like that. The moment I was sitting there trying to spray, I was like, oh, this is not that type of game. It's not that type of game at all. Like, accuracy, single fire shots, you kind of want to have that type of skill to it. It's definitely not a just like aim, shoot, blow a whole clip, and then you get a kill.
I'll be, from the videos I saw, it gave me a lot of CSGO vibes and how you controlled it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. No, it definitely is. And I would say a lot of times, like, if we look at CSGO, there's always like that predecessor in like that next generation. I think this is definitely it.
I mean, I can't hate on it. I'm not a big MOBA guy. I'm definitely a big MMO person. But I think from the time that I've invested, which is actually a lot of time in the past, I really can't be upset that there's options for people, because those overview MOBAs just may not be it. And maybe somebody is looking for, a little bit more advanced version of that Paragon-esque type of game. And Valorant doesn't bring those graphics, but it brings that competitiveness. It brings that ability to like really have the over-the-shoulder feel. It has abilities that you feel strong with. So like, I can definitely understand.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I hope that like in the future we continue to see these MOBAs still grow and still have their certain updates that just keep them valid, keep it where we still have that interest into them, because it doesn't feel like it's a gigantic like area of games, but I definitely would like to see that continue.
I definitely think the last 5 to 10 years have been the explosion of those games, where there's been a lot more options. Yeah. Even seeing Smite, having a Smite 2, having successors come out, I think is a tell that there is success, there is depth to that community. Yeah. So I'm not stressed. I think, as long as people keep playing, as long as good content keeps getting put out, I think the people will flock to those games.
For sure.
And I think, to be honest, transitioning over, that's why there are MMOs that have stood the test of time. Mm-hmm. And that's why some MMOs have had a point in time where they truly just shined and then, kind of faded away. So I would love to jump into that. And I think Guild Wars is the best place to really jump into this. And that's because it was a co-RPG. It was not an MMORPG, but it grew so significantly by the end of its life that it really fit that same category. Okay. So, mini games back in the day were, publicized or marketed through, commercials, or you would see cutouts at your local Best Buy or Toys R Us, or, wherever you went for games at that time. What's so cool about Guild Wars was, first thing, the creators of the game were ex-executives that had left Blizzard Entertainment. They left StarCraft and Warcraft, which were games that led to a lot of the other games that we love. But more importantly, when they came over, they really had a vision. And that was 2 things. First thing, they wanted to have a skill system that was essentially endless and based on the users, which I'll jump into that in a moment.
Okay.
But where it really jumped off was having an E3 setup? Do you remember the E3 games where they would have announcements and everyone would come in, you get to see the new games?
Actually, yeah.
They had a booth set up where everyone could come and just get their hands on the game.
Oh, that's nice.
First hands-on experience was just like, here's Guild Wars, come try it out, sit down, play it, and that just landed with a lot of the gamers. It resonated. They got to try something new, they got to get hands-on, they got to ask the developers questions. It was from people that were reputable, and that on top of the building system. So I told you, they really dedicated a lot of time to the skills. Guild Wars was very frequently referred to as Build Wars. And the reason is many MMOs, and let's give the little skeleton, have classes, right? Mm-hmm. You've got Warrior, Ranger, Monk, Necromancer, Mesmer, Elementalist. Now, these are specifically to Guild Wars.
Okay.
We've all played Priests, Warlocks. Depending on which game you're playing, it could be a handful of things. Now, when I came to Guild Wars, there were 6 classes.
Paladin.
Hey, dude, yeah. And Guild Wars, it started with 6. Each edition, each add-on, they added more. So there was Assassin, Ritualist, Dervish, Paragon. But I think what really made it important is each class had its own specific strengths.
Okay.
Now, many MMOs that you play, you can do a hybrid character, right? And you kind of get the benefits of both. That's not how this worked. This was a dual system where you could be 2 full classes, and you could mix and match their basic skills, and you could choose to have one elite skill that was like an ultimate in your bar of skills. Now, you have 8 abilities. So 1 ultimate, 7 normal abilities.
Okay.
What added a lot of variety was you could play a warrior, monk, and guess what? You keep yourself healed and you could be really tanky, and that makes a lot of sense. I am the out-of-the-box type of guy, and I would play things like Elementalist Assassin, because what's really cool is, like, as an Elementalist, there was an ultimate called Starburst. And this was not one you could buy at a vendor. You had to go out into the world with a thing called a signet, and the signet would go in your ability slot. So you'd have to leave the world with 7 abilities, and one of them was just non-usable. Find this boss. This is all the bosses throughout the world. When you kill them, you can get an ability. But this boss in particular, I went, killed it, and it gave me the ability Starburst. And Starburst was a touch skill. As an Elementalist, you could touch someone, and you could do burst damage. And it was thousands of hit points, which in Guild Wars is like blowing people off the map. I realized that I could use just that one Elementalist ability and 7 Assassin abilities to leave a point to teleport back to in 15 seconds. So it'd give me a little speed buff. I could be invisible. I could run across the map, touch someone, explode them, and teleport back. And I will tell you, as a troll, it brought me great joy.
It's vicious to picture it. It really is. It's vicious. And I like the build that you went for, because it's a very uncanny type of like style to it. I like it.
On the flip side, right? Maybe, you're a more passive guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to play a 50 HP monk. There was a monk that had 50 health, but the protection spells it put on it would reduce its damage, that you could never kill it. Those 50 HP monks would run up and you would damage, and it would just reduce the damage almost to nothing, and they would heal themselves. So, like, again, if you're that person that wants to just demoralize the other people because they can't kill you, that build exists.
That's a legend. That's a legend living right there.
Now, I really love those aspects, right? But I told you this was a co-RPG.
Right.
That built into an MMO, and I like, how do you build into an MMO? Well, it technically wasn't, but MMOs have all of these little parts I'm mentioning with a world economy.
Yeah.
With a travelable world, usually an open world. Like every MMO is an open world.
Right.
Guild Wars was not open. It was not an open world. It was very linear. There were different regions you could go to, but you had to run direct paths. What's cool is this led to people having jobs, and I'm doing air quotes, jobs, as runners. And what I mean by a runner is if I went to an area and I'm level 20, which is max level, and I just don't have a group, I could pay someone 5k gold, 2k gold, a k gold, depending where you're at, and they will just run through all of the enemies because they have speed abilities or teleport abilities or enough health that they can just run to the next zone.
Right.
That's where Guild Wars kind of grew past what I think was expected. And you had people who were runners. You had people who were the 50 HP monks who would run dungeons and they'd kill all the bosses because the bosses couldn't kill them.
Right.
There were so many different niche little jobs that people picked up that weren't real. They were jobs they made up, but it let them fill in a spot in the community. I think that's where Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars, that first iteration, was beautiful. I literally would sit down. I loved logging in. I loved playing with my family. But more importantly, I loved being part of a community where me going out and being good at dungeons or being able to do higher level things could either lead to me having tons of good loot and gold, or I could just bring my buddies along or bring some people along if I'm bored and allow them to get that. And it's still rewarding for me, right? Because I still get something out of it.
Exactly. I will say, since you mentioned like the running, this is like kind of going to Elden Ring just for a split second. Have you ever saw it was like a character that just had a pot on his head?
Absolutely.
And he helped like everyone
let me
defeat
solo them?
Millennium? Yeah, let me solo them. Yeah, absolutely. That just brought me back to that, just to think that, even in that sense, he wasn't getting like something out of it, but that essence of like, hey, like, let me help you get past this like threshold, which is really cool.
Brother, glory. He got nothing but glory.
That's
out
it.
Of it.
That's it.
I will say there's another aspect that I really appreciated that was so prevalent in Guild Wars that really trickled over into a lot of the other games I love, and that was titles.
Titles.
Having a title for your character. So like my character's name was Hermes the Weary. You could only get the Weary from doing certain events, certain quests. You had to get X amount of reputation. So like things like that really attracted me to put in time. And to give you an example, Guild Wars was very particular that its tutorial is in a prologue. It's in a different world. It's in a different time.
Yeah.
It's called the pre-searing. So when you play this tutorial, you can level up to, and max level in Guild Wars was 20. You can level up to about level 12.
Okay.
And then you would finish the tutorial. You could never go back to that time because it was back in time. And you go forward in time to where the main story takes place and you see all these people. In pre-searing are a bunch of people, a bunch of other characters like you, who are level 12 and below usually. What was so cool is you'd see some people who are level 15, 17, 20, and you're like, how? There was a title for getting level 20 in the pre-searing area. And to get that title, it was so hard because you had to be a ranger. You had to have a pet. You had to go near a spawn where when you died, you'd respawn from these little areas.
Yeah.
And you had to have your pet level up. You'd take your pet to level up, then you'd go die and then fight your pet to get experience from your pet to level up.
Oh, man.
Grind City. But the glory...
That is.
But the glory, right? Guild Wars had so many elements, again, that I think whenever I get to WoW, you're going to hear me gush, right? But Guild Wars was that first experience for me to be part of a community where it is important to us. It's a video game, and I get that. We love games. We talk about games all the time here. This game, when you log in, you're important. You are that character you're playing.
Right.
You contribute to that team. And we don't all get that in real life.
No.
I don't go to a job necessarily where I'm always appreciated and part of a team, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to log in, you get to be that tank. Let me stand in front of you. Let me take that damage.
Yeah.
Guild Wars was that first game where I really got to enjoy that.
Okay. I can appreciate that.
What were the MMOs that attracted you? Because again, I think for me, large scale RP games where I can invest myself in that world, those are the ones that attract me. I know that's not all the MMOs that are out there.
Yeah.
Do you have some MMOs that maybe are off the beaten path that people wouldn't have heard about or wouldn't have tried?
Well, like, to really think about your question, I think the part of like a lot of these MMOs that I played, a lot of it was just like the being immersed into a world that I've always seen that I wasn't fully immersed in. So like, for example, like one of them is called like Fusion Fall. This was Cartoon Network's like version of an MMO, and I used to watch Cartoon Network all the time, like growing up. From Dexter to Samurai Jack to
Powerpuff Girls.
We watched Powerpuff Girls. They were tearing up Mojo Jojo earlier. Yeah, I know, he was getting a beat down. But yeah, I would say getting to play a game like that where, you know, I have to walk through the streets and go all the way to the cul-de-sac and talk to Ed and Eddie and see like what type of missions I have to do. It was something that was really fun. I always looked up to the idea of like Kids Next Door. That was always one of my favorite shows. So getting to like see like number 3, number 5, number 4, it was just like a really cool experience of a MMO. It really got you like immersed into, like, I would say Cartoon Network's like idea of what that world would kind of look like if they all merged together. And you don't see a lot of like universe like tie-ins like that. So that's definitely one.
I was gonna actually say, like, that's the one thing that really attracted me when you showed me.
Mm-hmm.
Is I don't remember any other Cartoon Network games. Period.
No, like most of them that I've ever played were computer games. They were just like independent like computer games, and those were really good. Like there was like cafe fights. There were certain like Kids Next Door racing games and stuff like that, but they were all computer games. This was like the first thing that was like a 3D game. You're fighting these like goo versions of the characters that already exist, so it's like a goo version of like Dexter and stuff like that, and you're trying to like save the planet with all your cartoon characters. It's really cool. I definitely like the idea that it kind of shows them slightly grown up, just like a little bit. You can tell that they're not the age of what the character when you saw them.
I was gonna say Eddie looks weird, but I wasn't gonna say it. I wasn't gonna say it. That makes sense.
Wrong.
He's a little bit older, teenage Eddie.
Don't get me wrong. The way that they made it, the graphics, little off-putting, but the idea behind it, definitely nice. They did a really good job on that. I would say another one, kind of tying right into like Disney, is like Toontown. I don't know if I showed you a little bit about Toontown, and potentially I thought this was like a really funny, goofy, like, no pun intended, type of game where you could like go in and see Mickey. You could go and see all these characters, but you also have it where you're fighting these cogs. So potentially it's almost like it can be up to a 4 versus 4, and it's a multiplayer game where everyone's picking like characters that kind of look like Goofy, kind of look like Mickey. You can be a mouse, you could be a dog, all this different stuff. You're different colors, and you're using all these gag items like throwing pies, water guns. Definitely like a really old game. You can even have your own house too and invite people over to have like a party. There's like a water cannon that you could shoot people out of and stuff like that. So this was like it was a really cool game at the time. It wasn't something that you would expect a lot of people to be playing or looking into. So when I was younger and I got to play it, it was definitely really cool. You fought these people that were like kind of in suits. They were named cogs, and they were almost like, they had different names like lawyer, business office guy, like it was a bunch of different
businessman,
pencil pusher. Like they had like really funny just like business office tools and like office supply names, and it just seemed like the game was made behind you fighting growing up. Like the idea of it was like, you know, try to stay young. So it was cool.
That's
I like
the
the
game
moral
I'm
behind
playing
it
right now, Clifford. That's the game I'm playing
right now. I like it. I would say we have a few more that I definitely want to mention. I didn't play this too much, but it definitely had a lot of popularity to it. Was Club Penguin. And Club Penguin was definitely like a 2D game. It had a bunch of different games within it, and it was really like a social area for the most part. But when the game first came out, there was like a lot of bans. People were getting banned left and right. There wasn't really filters on stuff. So it was a very interesting game to start playing, but there was some cool stuff that I always remember. Like there was like the dojo you can go to where you can actually like practice karate as a penguin and stuff like that. You can have your own igloo. So you had this miniature society where you went out and did social things with other penguins, and you went to different miniature games like sliding down the slopes, like on like little like donuts that you normally have in like the pools and stuff like that. So it was its own cool like little game. I've played just a little bit to remember it, but it was something that was really cool too.
Did you ever get part of the group that tried to all go to one side of the island to flip it?
No, I haven't.
That's my homework for you. Club Penguin, allegedly, everyone had a legend that they would talk about that if everyone on the server would go to the side of this island, the island would flip over.
Really?
It was fake. But apparently one day before the server was done, before they shut down Club Penguin, they had the island flip. And I want to know if it's fact or fiction.
Cliff note. I got you. I'll find out. That would be a really good one. Absolutely. And then let's say we probably have like, this one's actually, I wonder if you've played this one actually. This is going to be, have you ever played Roblox?
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
I have one thing that draws me to Roblox that I cannot get over, and it's a problem.
What is it?
1-to-1 replicas of theme parks.
Oh, yeah.
My God. They did Halloween Horror Nights 1-for-1. Amazing. They do Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, 1-to-1. Amazing. You know what's crazy? You still wait in line. You still gotta wait in line.
That's the real experience for you.
Dude, it's crazy.
That's the real experience. That's it.
I called my buddy, and I have a friend of mine. Shout out to Andy. He had a work from home job for a minute, and when I called him one day, I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, nothing. I'm just in line at Universal. I'm waiting for Spider-Man." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're at Universal? Oh, call me back after." He's like, "No, on Roblox." I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean on Roblox?" But I have to say, they're incredibly accurate. Being someone who frequents Universal, they got it down.
Yeah. It's crazy. Roblox was what we probably wish Legos did. And I played Roblox like when it first came out, and it came out a long time ago. And I think it recently, in the last like few years, it just had a really big comeback. It just blew up. It was a lot smaller when I first got to it, and it was a really fun game. You didn't have like the ability to truly customize like the shape of your character as much. It was still like more of just you're blocked. But what I remember from the first times I was playing it was like there was a lot of tycoon games. So you could play like, you can make like a roller coaster tycoon. You could make like a business tycoon. I remember I built a world where it was like a tree house, and it was like a dance party inside. So the moment you climb up in the tree, the floor is lit up and everything. You have a dance party. Like, what else? I think the one that resonates so much with me was like, it was tan versus like green, and it's really just like one fort on one side, another on the other, and you have a bunch of different guns, you have rockets, and there's like helicopters and jeeps, and you're just going at it with each other. And it was like the first game that I played that felt like Legos, and when you exploded, there was pieces flying everywhere. So it was fun. It was a really fun game. And I know that there's a lot of people, a lot of like our younger audience definitely play it now. I don't play it anymore, but I saw the fun in it when it was there. So I can only imagine what it's at now.
Yeah, and I'll be really honest, like Roblox is one of those things kind of like Minecraft or Legos. I don't think there's a ceiling.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, what is the next endeavor we jump into? Oh, Marvel's big? Let's do a collaboration with Marvel.
Right.
Oh, people are really into football right now? Let's get a football team. And by that I mean soccer. But it could be American football too. But a lot of times whenever I think about these collaborations, right? Oh, we love Messi. I could see them doing a messy collab, you know? So like it just really depends on what's popular at the time. But Roblox, I think, is that little MMO that actually does fit that, where it is all ages.
Yeah.
I know people give it a little harshness because of the graphics. I think that lends to it. If you can get into something with those graphics, such as Minecraft,
yeah,
the possibilities are actually endless. You really can do anything. And I think the Universal Studios 1-for-1 theme park existing is
that's just cool. That's just really cool. That's a lot of work.
Also,
for
you
whoever
may
made
not
it,
live
you know?
here, and you may not have $400 to go see a theme park for a couple days.
That's true.
And I'm not going to dig at an adult, especially a child that doesn't have $400. Roblox is really accessible.
Yeah.
Real easy to get in there. Guess what, though? You still waiting. Give us that time.
You sure
No
are.
fast pass here. We don't care if you're handicapped.
It's not happening.
I'm handicapped for the record, so I'm not coming after handicapped people.
So I have two mentions just to kind of throw them in there. One was like the PlayStation Home, and I didn't get a chance to show you this, but this was the closest thing that I played that was like Sims.
Okay.
And I think if PlayStation Home came out on the PlayStation 4 or 5, I think it would have done really good. It came out on 3, and potentially you could go see movies, you could go to malls, you can shop for clothes, you can go to like night parties, you can go to like social gatherings, and you had, I want to say, if you wanted to picture like the avatars, I would say it's something similar to Sims, but a little bit more just it felt like the characters were taller for the most part. But that one's like a good mention. I think it was such a weird place that it was in when it first came out, and it was something that like I wind up playing with a few friends. It was actually pretty interesting to play. Like
a visionary game, a little too early for its time. It came out in 2008.
2008, yeah.
They were thinking. And I actually remember, now that I'm looking and seeing photos, I remember this being advertised.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see this being too early to the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a great idea, but the actual access, it's not enough people. Whereas now people with like Meta Quest, they're basically just doing that.
Yeah.
And playing poker and playing, games in person.
Exactly.
So I can definitely see where that was a really great thought. I could see it being fun. I also could see where the limitations are coming with a PS3.
Exactly. I think I really wish if they came out with it now, I think it'd be really successful. So it was one of those the technology's not there at the time situation, which
I totally get that.
Yeah. So definitely worth the mention. I would say another one would be, I've mentioned this game before. It's PlanetSide 2. Mentioned it in our first-person shooters. I had said this game was like disappointing in the sense of not knowing like what truly like the goal is, because there's just so many things to do. I went back and looked at the game, and I would say for MMO, it's, if you want to have it where you're just not facing a objective, it's really fun. It's very chaotic. You're playing with hundreds of people. And when it comes to aircraft carriers floating above you and you can shoot them down, to drop ships, to artillery, it kind of has everything. So I think if you ever wanted a game where it's just, okay, I just want war and mayhem, like left and right, this is a game for you to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about a game that I know you played.
Yeah, talk to me.
What are your thoughts on RuneScape? Where it's been, where it's at? I know there's another RuneScape coming out, so what are Clifford's thoughts on RuneScape?
I think I absolutely love RuneScape. I think it was one of my first like computer games that I really sat down, put a lot of time in. But RuneScape definitely gives you a perspective on skills. I know you were talking about skills earlier. For everyone that's never played RuneScape before, you have close to about 15 skills that you can learn and you can get really good with. You can get all the way up to level 99, and you can use this to, get certain items, be able to sell these items in the Grand Exchange. So it really had its own like economy as well.
What were some of the skills?
Some of the skills were simple. They were like wood cutting. Other ones were potentially like fishing. Other ones were attacking, defense, magic. You had fletching as well. Other ones were like just prayer. So there was so many different things. And the crazy part about it is that as you do more stories, more quests, certain quests require you to have 35 fletching as a level. Some will require you to have, your agility needs to be level 60 before you can even come into this area. So it makes it where as you play, depending on what you focus on and what skills you like, is what quests you'll actually get. So really cool. It'll definitely make it where it's like, man, like I like agility, I like defense, and I like wood cutting. And then it's like, okay, like this quest I can do, that quest I can do. But I didn't work on my attack. I need to get this up to 55 before I can even do this. I think that's where a lot of the appeal came from. Especially those like the first game that I played where I was actually like fighting dragons. So you get to a threshold of doing all these like tutorial kind of feeling like quests, and then you finally get to you're fighting this dragon on this island, and once you surpass that, then you have access to get to like further areas. Then you feel like the world kind of opens up to you a little bit, and it was really fun because as you kept playing the game, they did add more areas, and the more skills you were learning, the further you were progressing. They had PvP, which was really fun, very terrifying too. Picture like an area in the north, and there's just like almost like a walled off like area potentially. The moment you cross over that line, they're like, hey, this is PvP area. Just the moment you cross over, you could be running, walking out there, and you'll see someone in the distance. They'll cast like magic on you, have you stuck in a spot. They'll come up and beat you up. They'll take all your stuff. So there was a lot to the game that you could do. I mean, from cooking to any type of skill really that you think that like your basic humans can do, besides magic, of course. But
now, I will say that's one of the reasons why I love MMOs. Mm-hmm. A lot of the areas you're bringing in, right? Like, I'm not a big PvP guy. I enjoy it. I enjoy PvP. I more prefer PvE experiences, whether it's fighting that dragon, grouping up with people and fighting that dragon, or to be honest, if I'm the guy that cooks the meal that gives everybody a buff and can sit back and let everyone else do it, I love that too. Like, that's the role I like to play as a support character. So I think, RuneScape having prayer, having, these really simple ones that I wouldn't necessarily be attracted to, but maybe a pacifist would. And then things like wood chopping. I love that. I'll go as long as it has a good sound, which RuneScape did, 10 out of 10.
Yes, it did.
The wood chopping sound was 10 out of 10. But you look at stuff like that, and that's where there's a repetitiveness to it that's relaxing. There's a reward to it that makes you appreciative. There's rewarding sounds to it, which make you want to do it more. And I think that's where RuneScape, even though being as simple as it was, I think really had the ability to show people that depth. Because to your point, I started out as a peasant.
Yeah.
I know nothing. I have like a shovel and a carrot. And then, you progress to being a skilled artisan that's high level in prayer. You have the ability to fight the dragon, maybe take its skin, make some armor. And I think that's what makes people want to play that, because you can't do it in real life. Mm-hmm. If you are, good for you. But I think what's bigger is it really gives you a sense of accomplishment. Being able to build this character up from nothing and accomplish it. Beating a fictitious dragon on an 8-bit or 32-bit video game shouldn't bring you that sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Joy. In my opinion, I feel like I just want to fight, which is crazy. And that's so hard to replicate in so many games. RuneScape was one of those first games where I got to really dip my toe and experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to just tie back into the skills, I know there's so many, and I just kind of went up and tried to pull up a few more. Like, you can make runes that are used for magic. You could be a thief, and you can get really good at thieving. And the part of this that's very interesting is also that the lower level you are, the more you like mess up. So like if you're cooking food and you're low level, you burn the food almost all the time. And you know, if you start getting like really good ingredients, that's not helping you out. So moments like this, it's like you can exchange stuff with people, you can trade stuff. I know I mentioned for a split second the Grand Exchange. This is the place where you can go and trade pretty much anything. So that's where the economy kind of comes in.
Is the Grand Exchange physically a building? Like the Grand Exchange is like a bank, it's like a building, or is the Grand Exchange a name of just an area where people congregate?
It is both. It is a place where you walk in and it looks almost like it's outside partially, but there's a teller spot in the center. And then all around it, it's almost like a tile floor area. It looks almost like a metal. It's a part of like the castle, but it's on the outer like west wing. And potentially when you walk in there, you'll see a bunch of people standing around. Some people are like advertising. Oh, I'm selling this for this. They'll be running around. Oh, I'm selling that. You'll see the text chat everywhere. And then you'll see people going into the exchange. You can actually post and sell things. They'll let you know what the current value of something is, because it's like, oh, there's short supply of this. You can sell it for this. Or you can, you know, sell something high and might sit in the exchange for a while. So it really just depends on what type of situation you're in. You're like, man, I need the cash now. Let me sell this for like, you know, extra 10 cents cheaper. And whoever's trying to buy it, they'll immediately automatically transition that through. So really cool.
I love it. I love it. Anything else in RuneScape that like you think RuneScape did the best?
I think it had a very weird humor in the storylines. I remember there was like this one story where you had to, you had to like take a banana and hide in like this barrel, and then you got kidnapped and put onto a ship and put somewhere else.
Say less. I'm in.
And then you're fighting like monkeys on an island. There's some like, they have some like very interesting things, and when you see someone like a character trying to be funny through text, it has a little funniness to it. It's got a little funniness to it.
Yeah, and I will say too, you know, I think for the medium in which you could play RuneScape, it being free to access as long as you had internet.
Right.
I think that was the first really in-depth experience, regardless of what the graphics looked like or how it came across, that people really were like impressed by, like floored by.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is it was free. There was a lot of games that used to be connected with AOL.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think you had to pay for AOL per hour?
Per hour?
Per hour.
50 cents.
$8.
No way.
Yeah, way. And, you know, I don't want to ever condone, this is a conversation for another day, but whenever we talk about the price of games, you know, there's some gives and takes. And I think that they are getting overpriced. But whenever you look at subscription prices, like maybe, you know, PlayStation Plus or, you know, Xbox Game Pass, I'm like, they're kind of affordable in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
RuneScape was that breaking of the mold of like, no. We're going to allow people to come and play this game as long as they have access to the internet, which I think is pretty cool.
The crazy part is they did have the members level, so you could freely play the game, but if you wanted more things to kind of tie in, for example, construction. So you could actually like, you can make your own house, and it could be 2-story, 3-story. You could set up a dungeon in your house. So
yes,
you had
please.
like a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, like you could really set it up if you wanted to. And
in my house, it'd be called a fungeon.
A fungeon. I like it. That's good stuff. And then what is it? I think summoning too, where you can actually summon like characters, animals. That was like in the membership, and even like the dragon armor, you have to be a member to get. So.
And you know I need the dragon armor.
You do.
Not for real, though. Like, if we're playing a game and we're killing a dragon, I need to wear its skin.
Exactly. So there was a lot of fun to it. And I think even going to the bank, because you go to the bank a lot, like you can't carry everything on you, and you'll go to all these different like cities that are potentially just like castles, but they have tellers at the top as if they're modern 2009 or something. And you'll walk in, you can actually even set a pin on your bank. So like, let's say you had someone else playing on your account or something, like they actually let you put a pin on your account.
I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I think about, maybe you have kids or you have someone in your family, your brother that plays on, the same computer. Don't be touching my monies.
Yeah. That's locked away. You can't touch it. Whatever's on the character right now, go have your fun, but once you log off, you don't know that passcode. So I think that's a really good one. Now, there is one last one that I'm going to mention is Destiny. Now, I know that you were thinking about getting into Destiny at some point. I know you didn't get a chance to. I can definitely say the fact that the developers from Halo came over and made Destiny, there was a lot of hype behind it. There was a lot of people were excited for it. And playing it, it was definitely fun. It was a really good game. I think the second one's even better. But to kind of give like an idea of just what the storyline was, is potentially this dome shows up to Earth and it's called the Traveler. And when it shows up, it kind of shares the technology that it has. And then all of a sudden, the human race advances. We start moving over to Mars, we move over to Venus, Mercury. We're able to be on multiple planets. And it looks like our future is a great promise. The issue is that there is an enemy that's been following the Traveler for eons. So it's been chasing the Traveler all the way through space and time. And it finally shows up and it attacks everything you know. So it starts wiping out the human race. It starts attacking the Traveler. The Traveler does everything it can to protect the human race, and it saves the last city. So it actually now it's floating right above the very last city, and that's the last place it's trying to defend. Now, there's these things called ghosts, and you might have seen them. They look like almost like close like a hexagon kind of triangle kind of shape, and potentially what they'll do is they'll float on over and hover by the person that they're protecting, which is like a warrior. Now, normally the warriors are already passed. They've already died. So they actually look out and they try to find someone that's already passed and see if they're a really good warrior, and they bring them back to life. This is how you start off the game. So the ghost is actually introducing itself when it's saying, hey, like, you have passed and now I'm bringing you back. I need you to help defend the Traveler and the last city. So that's the concept behind it. And normally you would do raids, you would do missions across like the area that you're at on Earth, and you're taking out different alien species that are trying to get to the Traveler, destroy this Traveler. And you have these three mentors: your hunter, you have your warlock, and I think the last one is a titan. Yeah. So you have these three different types, and potentially your hunters are a little bit more agile. Your warlocks, they can kind of float around. They're a little bit more control DPS. And then you have, of course, your titans, a little bit more beefier armor and stuff like that. And there's so many cool different like ultimates that they can have, which go into like having flame abilities, having electricity abilities, or void abilities. This was the concept behind it, and it was a really cool game because every time you joined up, you would join up and meet in orbit. So you'll have like other people show up with their ships, then we'll fly on down, go to the area that we need to help, or we're flying to Mars and we're trying to save an outpost from being attacked and stuff like that. I think the only part that a lot of people was hoping that was more is they wanted to see more maps, they wanted to see more areas, and they did push the limits with some DLCs and new raids and stuff like that, but they did such a great job on the second one as well. They really opened up a lot of places where you're going like out of the solar system, you're going to further places, different planets, different moons and stuff like that. So a really good game. I definitely wanted to mention that one.
I tried to get into it 3 months ago.
Okay.
It's just a lot. I know this is a lot coming from me, a guy who just got back into World of Warcraft. there's a lot of history that I don't know, and it's a lot to digest.
It is.
To go down the timeline, to see, the Red War and all this stuff, and you don't really know what it is, and it's not really something that you can re-access because it was, old content. It's just a little difficult sometimes to, like, get a grasp on where you fit into that universe.
Right.
But what I will say, it's polished. The moment you play a class, you can tell it feels a particular type of way. The hunter feels really agile. That double jump feels nice. You feel like you're a little squishy. The Titan feels a little thick. Feels like you got a little power behind you. And it definitely, you can tell it's a Bungie game immediately. I played Halo 3 for so many hours. I played Halo 2 for so many hours. The moment you pick it up, it definitely is like, this is Bungie made. So I can definitely see where mixing in quests, open world PvE, PvP, adding in raids, adding in these little elements where you can kind of do what you want, I could really see how attractive that would be. I just feel like I missed the train a little.
That's okay. I'll tell you, I will say, like, if anything, I would have you play 2, and I'd probably try to catch you up to speed to a certain extent. Going back to playing 1 might be a little difficult and stuff like that, especially with the raids being, there are like different ways you can pull off like doing raids with less people, but it is a little bit difficult. But
we can do 2. I could commit to a Destiny 2 Platinum.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. For everyone that's played, I know when you think of Calcius and the dog section, that was a very terrifying and long experience. So there's a part of a raid where it's almost like you walk into this room and it's very foggy. It almost feels like you're like playing almost like in a jungle area, and there's these dogs that come out and you have to take them out in sequence, or there's like just mayhem is rained upon you, and you have to be on comms, and you have to be very meticulous on comms. Like I can't stress it. I don't think there's a game that I've played where I wasn't this meticulous on comms. It's like split second reactions. I know there's ways that people play it now where they can get past it, but when this first came out, this was a spot where a lot of people failed at.
You're like, there was no getting past it, just chaos.
So definitely a fun time. It definitely made it worth going back and playing it again, and anytime you failed, you're like, oh man, like we almost had it, like, let's do this again. So
I would like an experience like that.
It's good.
Is it time, Cliff? Is it time for me to do our little transition into the last 2?
It's time. Finish us off with the good stuff.
So I'm gonna start with the game that really made the second game possible.
Okay.
So EverQuest was the first commercially successful MMORPG that had a 3D game engine. Wasn't the first one to do it. It was the first one to do it with that 3D engine and be successful. Now, EverQuest was the epitome of hard. It was the Elden Ring of MMOs, because you would just spawn in an open world and the enemies could fly anywhere. The highest level enemies were just flying around that area. The lowest level enemies in that spawn could kill you. So it led to a sense of community through pain. Everyone knew that if we don't get together, we're not going to survive. Now, the reason why on a few of the other games I asked, hey, is that area where you buy and sell things, is it actually a city? And you're like, yeah, it's this building and there's a banker. In EverQuest, it ended up the biggest congregation of people was between the starting zone and like the mountain pass to the higher level zone, because the game was so hard and there's enemies running everywhere that pass was one of the few places where enemies didn't just travel into. So to your point, when you finally make it, you're struggling, you make it, you get a couple people to help you make it to that mountain pass, and you run in there and you see higher level characters, you see level characters with armor, you see people with spells, you see, it kind of is like, oh, it's that sense of bewilderment. You're like, oh man, what is there? What is there in this game? And when I talked about Guild Wars, I talked about runners and people who would pay to have this guy run to the next zone. There was a thing called train in EverQuest.
What was that?
If you ever saw the word train, that meant there was a bard who was running through the zone, and he was getting all of the bad guys together. He was physically creating a train of all the bad guys, and he would run them to the group of people. So he would let you know, everyone would power up, get your stuff up, and that's the easiest way that you could level up.
Okay.
Or kill bosses, or take out world bosses, because, it's a hard game.
Yeah, he's causing synchronized attacks at that point.
Lining them up, and you're knocking them down. Now, EverQuest, I think the thing that made it so special was the difficulty, and that people had camaraderie around trying to keep that valuable life of yours, fresh.
Right.
Now, say you die. EverQuest is also one of the first games that had that run back to your corpse. You need to go back to where you died, very much like Elden Ring, right? If you want your money, you want your stuff, you better run back to that body.
Yep.
If something happens between then and now, you're not getting it back. If it takes you too long, you're not getting it back. I think that was one of the things that made EverQuest a little more challenging for some, because not everybody is looking to get an escape from reality into another world where you can die and lose all of your stuff. You kind of want to have a little safety net. EverQuest, first 3D MMORPG. Now, if we're talking best, I'm biased, but I'm going to say World of Warcraft. The same way that Aeon of Strife, that first MOBA, was a custom map of StarCraft, right? You had this RTS, you had this custom map, and that's what led to this MOBA. The same thing happened with World of Warcraft. Warcraft itself had servers where people would role play and they would do things outside of the norm of the game.
Yeah.
And that led to the idea of World of Warcraft. So what makes World of Warcraft the best MMO, in my biased opinion, is the variety in-game for what you can do with your character. So we've talked about all these games having elements that they did so well, and it would be one or two, and I think World of Warcraft really came in and perfected all of those elements. So let's start with the common gamer, me. I really like World of Warcraft because I like to hop in, I like to go fishing, I make a ton of money a day off fishing, maybe 25, 30K. That helps me to pay for my subscription, which I think is a wild function.
That's
the
wild.
Economy in World of Warcraft, physically selling in the auction house, can lead to such profits, not only getting you better items, mounts, rare stuff in-game, but if you've got everything you really need for the time being, you can pay $250,000 in-game currency for a 30-day subscription pass, or $15 back to your credit card. So the first negative I already hear people saying is like, I have to pay a subscription. I get it, but the subscription is worth it for the content. Every Tuesday there's an update. Every Tuesday the servers go down and they fix glitches, they fix issues, they add in-game content if there's something that needs to be added, which I think just adds to the life of the game. Outside of just common gamers and having, bugs fixed and having the ability to go and just have a little profession that can bring you joy, it's monotonous, it's easy, but also super rewarding. You have the flip side. You have the really serious raider, and they have the ability to go out and do the most challenging dungeons, the most challenging raids. The dungeons are called Mythic Plus, and the raids are based on either normal or heroic difficulty. You can also do 25-man or 40-man. So when you look at variety, even when it comes to getting together with other people who want a really big competitive challenge, that's available too. Obviously, I would tell you at that point, you should probably look for a guild. Guilds make it a lot easier for having that community for what you want in the game. There are role-playing guilds. There are guilds that only do PvE events like raids or dungeons. There are guilds that only do PvP, which, has its own rewards. And again, this is where World of Warcraft brings everything together. I think Guild Wars had really amazing PvP. The PvE was fun, but it was really linear, right? And the end game was just sitting, grinding out different challenges in PvP arenas with the PvE gear that you earned. In World of Warcraft, the transmog system has made it so I can play raiding or dungeons or just going out and questing with whatever armor I want. But also PvP itself will reward me with specific armor that only comes from PvP arenas or PvP battles. So, you know, when you look at variety and you look at what people want from an MMO, you can get it here. It just depends where you have to go. It depends on the server you need to be on, or it depends on which faction you would pick. I played for many years as Alliance, and I know there's a lot of World of Warcraft people out there that are like, no, not Alliance. I got into it and my friends played Alliance. Now, me coming back to it after all of this time, I'm hardcore into the Horde, and I think it's just so interesting that even going through old zones and old content that I played hundreds of hours on before, I get a brand new, fresh look at it because I'm seeing it from a different perspective.
That's nice.
So, you know, World of Warcraft, obviously I'm biased, but I just love it so much. It's one of the few games that I can sit down and I can throw in 15 minutes, I can throw in 3 hours, I can throw in a week of time, and there's something I can accomplish in each of those increments that feel rewarding. And on top of it, like, when it's not rewarding, when I fall short, when I go for a mount, or I go for a really hard dungeon or raid and I either die and fail, or I complete it and don't get the armor or the transmog I was looking for or the mount, I'm not really discouraged. And I'm not discouraged because there's so many other areas that reward you, that these areas being more challenging actually lead to you wanting to come back, wanting to grind it out, wanting to get better, or, you know, that 100th time, that 1000th time when you actually get the mount, it does have an amount of satisfaction and you do feel proud to show it off. So, you know, whenever it comes to gameplay, I think it's got really great gameplay elements. When it comes to community elements and connecting with people, I think it's really successful. When it comes to quality of life and maintenance and updates, I think they're on top of it. So, like, all the major areas, I think they're really solid. Obviously, I'm happy that they have seasonal events. I'm happy that they do special events where you can go on Twitch and you can get a special skin or a Twitch drop. So, you know, even outside of just the realm of the World of Warcraft, there are other areas or avenues where you can go and talk to people that enjoy the same things and you get rewarded. So, you know, I'm cheesing here. I'm just going over World of Warcraft and talking about how much I love it. But when we talk about MOBAs, when we talk about MMOs, when we talk about ease of access, you can play WoW on almost any computer. It's on Mac, it's on PC, it's pretty easily accessible. I would say the biggest negative that the game has is that you have to earn, or you have to pay real money. You have to pay a subscription. But the positive, you can in-game, if you are successful enough, pay for it pretty easily once you get the skill of the game down. So I would even challenge you, you know, if you played for 2 months, you're absolutely going to have a max level character, but you'd probably have the ability with that amount of time to learn how to pay for the game in-game. But outside of that, I mean, Cliff, obviously, I'm a big WoW guy, so I'm going to be biased. I'm going to have all the positives and try to stay away from the negatives. But
for sure,
I will say, when the negatives come out, generally they're heard, they are addressed. I think that this current iteration of World of Warcraft is the most fun I've had since Wrath of the Lich King. It's the most fun I've had in 10 years. But I also think it's because it has something for everyone. I think it's super rewarding. I think it's, with minimal research, pretty clear, because again, it's like a Destiny. You have so much time, you have so much depth of information that it can be daunting. But I can tell you, if you just hover over it, you read, you watch a YouTube video, you have a friend that plays, it is really easy to catch on, and at that point, really easy to find the rewards that you're looking for. Thank you all for joining. Obviously, we have so much love for MOBAs and MMOs that we couldn't even get out everything that we wanted in these 2 hours. So any comments, any notes, any games that you want us to talk about, please reach out to us on our socials, thelegendofgamingpodcast.com or the Legend of Gaming Podcast on X, Facebook, Spotify, all the socials. But for now, it's Matt.
And you got Cliff.
And we're signing out.
Peace.